On this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock, a full summary of Red Dead Redemption 1. See John Marston in action and find out how Arthur Morgan fits into the story. It's all here on this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. Hello and welcome to this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock, and as you would have heard at the beginning, we're doing things a little differently this week. My name is James, but this week I'm going to take you through a complete summary of Red Dead Redemption 1. So sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy it. Rockstar's original Frontier epic centres around John Marston, a former outlaw who's trying to go on the, admittedly shooty, straight and narrow. After being strong-armed by corrupt government officials,
your friends from Blackwater hired me to gag you.
They ain't my friends. They're pleased to meet you, Jake.
John is forced to bring in his former criminal chums, dead or alive, with the emphasis on the daisy-pushing former.
Bill! Bill, I've come for you!
A fundamentally decent man,
Who said I was a decent fella?
Marston has no choice but to betray his brothers-in-arms after Edgar Ross captures his wife Abigail and teenage son Jack. The dastardly Ross is director of the fledgling Bureau of Investigation and sees John as the ideal man to rid the dying West of its few remaining bandits.
The one person we have left that can appeal to Mr. Vanderlyn is the last person we know who knows him.
Before stepping off the boat in New Austin, Marston spent his teens and early 20s in Dutch Vanderlyn's gang, a section of his life that you'll see in great detail in Red Dead Redemption 2. The son of a surly Scot who lost both eyes in a bar brawl and the prostitute he fell in love with, John was forced to fend for himself at a young age after both parents passed while he was still a child. No wonder he was destined for a life of crime and buffalo abuse. We first meet John 12 years after the events of Red Dead Redemption 2, which, despite that number, is actually a prequel. The gunslinger is charged with either capturing or capping three prominent members of his gang. First up on the list is Bill Williamson, a beardy, not terribly bright scoundrel.
You always were one for fancy words.
Who isn't a fan of fancy wordplay. John's outlaw assaulting quest doesn't exactly enjoy the smoothest of starts though. After tracking Williamson down to his temporary home at the heavily armoured Fort Mercer, our cowboy chum is promptly shot in the stomach.
Well?
Oh. Poor Jim.
So much for the fabled Old West hospitality. Luckily for our boy, he's promptly picked up at the side of the road by Bonnie McFarlane. Fierce, principled and progressive, this ranch owner tends to John's injuries and gives him a place to stay on her farm while he's healing up. In return, Marston helps patrol the ranch, which involves shooting coyotes and crop-stealing bunnies. Once he's back on his feet, John travels to the nearby town of Armadillo, where he quickly befriends the local sheriff. As he helps the marshal and his deputies wipe out the criminals, John's pistol-twirling pursuits lead him to cross paths with all manner of colourful characters.
My name's Marston. John Marston.
Goodbye, John Marston. It's been a great pleasure.
Grave robbing is colourful, right? Among these strange allies is Nigel West Dickens, a crooked snake oil salesman who loves to peddle miracle cures to anyone gullible enough to part with their dollars. Marston also makes friends with Seth, the aforementioned corpse lover, and Irish, a drunkard who harbours a legendary love for whiskey and nonsense tales.
It'd be my pleasure. She's magnificent government issue. It'll be a bit of a ride, but we'll get there soon enough.
After running various errands for these western chancers, John is eventually able to assemble a squad to attack Fort Mercer in the hopes of capturing Williamson. And while this bunch might not exactly be the A-team, between them they manage to storm the fort. Unfortunately for Marston, Bill has already fled before he can go postal with a mounted machine gun. Soon after, John picks up a tip that Williamson and Javier Escula are hiding in Mexico. Cue the world's most homicidal raft journey as John and Irish brave choppy waters and hails of gunfire before they dock on Mexican soil. Shortly after crossing the border, Redemption serves up arguably its best moment.
Step in front of a runaway train, just to feel alive again.
A brilliant moment that helps set the scene of a stranger out of his depth in a foreign land. During his Mexican travels, John helps turn the tides of a civil war,
I hope you and your wife and children rot in hell.
and even finds time to fleece a train. After liberating Mexico, Marston tracks down Escula, where you're given the choice to either capture or kill him.
Give it up, Javier.
Then, with the help of the revolutionary Abraham Reyes, John finally finds Williamson and promptly puts a bullet in the former gang pal. With 2 of his targets either in jail or dead, Marston returns to America. Now, in the final Great Plains area, John is given a taste of modern life, and the cobbled streets of Blackwater chip away at the Old West. Never more out of his depth, Marston soon befriends an eccentric professor, who is only too happy to lead John to Dutch, providing you save his bacon from a rooftop sniper shootout.
I'm getting good at this.
His outlaw-ending journey almost complete, John and his government harassers track down Van der Linde at the outlaw's base among the towering pines of Tall Trees Forest. After Marston mows down his men, he finally comes face to face with his former leader, yet never gets the chance to pull the trigger. Not only is Dutch a gun-toting romantic, he's also a martyr, as he proves when he flings himself off a cliff before Marston can bring him in.
Our time has passed, John.
With Dutch dead, Edgar Ross finally releases John from his service, and the cowboy promptly returns to his family back at the Marston Ranch in Beecher's Hope.
Come on, Archer. Let's go find somebody else we can annoy.
After reuniting with his wife, son, and crotchety uncle,
That's a nice way to greet somebody.
who may or may not actually be his uncle, John settles down to a life of peaceful ranching.
Coyotes ate all the chickens and poachers took the cattle. I tried, Father. I tried.
Shooting bands of outlaws is replaced with gentle herding, quality time with Jack, and leisurely rides to the McFarlane Ranch, where John is briefly reunited with Bonnie. As closing video game acts go, it's downright serene.
So, you've come for some cattle?
Yeah, I'm finally starting up my farm again. Or trying to, at least.
You'll be fine. You've been taught well. Come on, then.
Well, at least until this happens. Backing out on their previous deal to let Marston live out his days in peace, Edgar and his agents storm Beecher's Hope, and during a violent assault, kill Uncle. Thanks to his sharpshooting skills, John takes out many of Ross's cronies, and he's able to stall them long enough for Abigail and Jack to escape on horseback.
You stay out of trouble, John.
Ain't no trouble, Abigail. Ain't no trouble.
Sadly though, Marston can't escape his own past. With his wife and son safe, John confronts the government agents in a defiant last stand. Cue possibly the saddest video game ending ever. Hopelessly outgunned, Marston is swiftly put down, as Ross's men riddle him with lead. Abigail and Jack return to discover Marston's bloody corpse, and the game is seemingly headed for the end credits, as mother and son tearfully bury John during a quietly touching funeral.
And the wind blows free.
But of course, that's not the end. With John in the ground, the game jumps ahead 4 years, as a now adult Jack buries his mother alongside Marston's grave. Now in control of John's fully grown son, you're initially at a loss as what to do, The main character is dead, the story seemingly over, and yet those credits still haven't rolled. It's only when you bring up the map to see a vague stranger mission symbol off in the distance that you realise this western epic has one final story to tell. Jack rides to Blackwater, following a breadcrumb trail that will eventually lead the vengeful son to one Edgar Ross. Jack tracks Ross down to the banks of a Mexican river. The former agent is enjoying his retirement with a spot of duck hunting. Confronted by the offspring of the man he betrayed, Ross is unapologetic, blaming John's lifestyle for his demise, and not that pesky barrage of government bullets. Undeterred by Edgar's threats, Jack enters into a duel with the man who killed his father. Finally, with Edgar dead, Jack walks off into the sunset, and the curtain closes on not only the finest cowboy game ever made, but one of the very best open world titles there's ever been. So that's you all caught up with the events of John Marston's wonderful Western. Now you're 100% ready to commit all of those hours of your life to Red Dead Redemption 2. With the prequel whisking you back to the glory days of Dutch's gang, you take on the role of Arthur Morgan, which will no doubt answer a lot of questions. Buckle up, partners. The tale of Morgan and Chums looks set to be the best in the West.